Hi there, this is the Common Magician. We're going to try something really unusual, really different today, something we've never really tried before. And to do this, I need to do a quick pocket dump. So let me take my items out of my pocket here that I normally carry. And so just my essential stuff, got a coin, some keys, got my wallet, and I've got my phone here. I'm going to use my phone just for a moment to kind of keep track of a few things. I need to get some numbers from you. So if there were several of you here, I might ask a few of you for some numbers, just a single-digit number, any freely selected number. You might say something like 5. And again, you have to take my word for this, but really, if you were here, this could be any set of numbers, okay? So 5, I might ask somebody else, and they might say something like 8. And maybe somebody else would say something like, I don't know, maybe 4. So we have 5, 8, 4. I would ask you if you wanted to mix these up in any way. You can change the order. It doesn't matter. 5, 8, 4 is fine, or you could change that order. Let's say that you decided to switch the order around and you did 8, 8, 4, 5. That'd be fine. So let's say 8, 4, 5. And again, this would be a free choice that you would have. It's completely up to you how this goes. What I want to do here is something with this number. I want to come up with a set of numbers or a different set of numbers that even you couldn't anticipate. But I'm only going to use the numbers that you provided. So I don't know what the outcome is going to be, and you don't know what the outcome is going to be. But I'm only using what you gave me and nothing else. In music, I'm a music teacher. In electronic music, we would call something like this granular synthesis, where we take a sound and record it, and then we would chop it up digitally into a bunch of different pieces, reorganize it, and come up with a completely different sound. The idea here is that I want to make sure we have something at the end that nobody could anticipate, but it comes only from what you provided. So you have all the choices in this matter. Okay? So if 8, 4, 5, I want to break this down a bit, but I'm only going to use the numbers you gave me. I'm going to subtract the inverse of this. So we have 8, 4, 5. I'm going to reverse this number, 5, 4, 8. I'm going to subtract that. We're going to break this down into smaller pieces. So we'll take 8, 4, 5 minus 5, 4, 8. And again, you freely gave these to me. We would assume that. And we end up with 2, 9, 7. We couldn't have anticipated that, 297. That's what we came up with based on what you gave me. I want to try something else here. We need more digits to play with. So I want to add some to this, but again, I'm only going to use data that you gave me, some numbers that you gave me, or whatever we're working with here. I'm going to invert this and add it back on. So I'm going to put the plus sign, hit the plus sign, and we're going to add 792. 792. We'll see what we come up with here. 1089. So now we've got 4 digits to work with. We added another digit to that. We need more. I need more to work with here to make this work out. I have a plan here, and see if this works. I'm a little skeptical at this point. Let's add these up. We'll add these up and get a couple more digits to add on to these 4. We could add it a few different ways. We could add the single digits. Adding 0 doesn't really work. We could add 1, 8, and 9, and that would give us 16, 18, right? Is that right? Yeah, 18. The other thing we could do is if we tried something, we could get some other variety here. If we added 10, 8, and 9, and that would give us 27. So it's up to you. We can get 18 or we can get 27 from that. And you can choose. Let's say you pick 27. That'd be fine. So the digits we have are 108927. 108927. Let me put this on here. So we have 108927. So this is a 1 in a million chance that we would come up with that number if we were going 6 digits, right? It's actually 1 in 999,999, but 1 in a million that we would arrive at this number, this particular set of single digits. Yeah, and you gave me all the information. So this all comes from you, this little escapade with numbers here. I've got something in my wallet I want to show you. Now, my wallet's been sitting here the whole time. Okay, I haven't moved it, and I haven't touched it. It's just been sitting here. I was going through some paperwork the other day, and I found something unusual that I decided to keep. I don't know why I wanted to keep it, but I just decided to keep it. And it's this thing right here. It's a little raffle ticket. I'm sure you've seen these before. You can see these at, I don't know, small fundraising events or carnivals. And the idea is that there's two parts to it. There's a ticket and then there's a stub, right? And you would return the ticket with the name and address. And there's nothing on this. I don't even know what this is to. I don't know what this came from. I just found it. So I'm not sure really what the story is with it. But you'd put your address on that. You would turn in the ticket, and then you keep the stub. And they have a corresponding number on that. And then your name could be drawn, and you might win something or be recognized in some way for something. So I've got this ticket. I don't know what it's for, but I kept it. I don't know why. And I have a feeling that I kept it for this moment right now. Because if I take a look at it, and we take a look at the numbers that are on there, now there's some zeros because there's quite a large number of digits that are possible on these raffle tickets. But if you compare 108927, look what we have. 108927. This is the Common Magician with another tutorial series. This is actually going to be a long-form tutorial, but I've listened to some of your criticism concerning my long-form tutorials, and some of you feel they're just too long. They're too long, Common Magician. They need to be shorter, more edited. And one of the complaints is about the talking, just the amount of talking that I do, that I talk about a lot and show very little for that talking. I want to address that very quickly. I don't apologize for that because this channel really is about sharing more than methods and presentations. We're talking about theory and concepts, and that I think is more important, particularly in an effect like this, than the method and the presentation. So I'm going to keep doing that, and we're going to keep talking because I think that's important stuff. If you come across a tutorial and you're just looking for a presentation and you're just looking for a method and you're ready to cut and run, I think you're missing out because the bulk of a performance really relies on your presentation, your angle, your approach, and your theory behind what you're doing. The method is just a little piece of it. And I like to focus more on these other things because I think they can really impact simple methods and make simple methods look quite incredible. So that's my little apologetic for these rants and rambles that I give about theoretical ideas. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to cut this up into a number of different tutorials. This isn't going to be one big, long-form tutorial, but it's going to be several in a series, and this will be the first one. So this is a bit of an introductory tutorial on this concept that we're talking about. And the concept of discussion has to do with the adjoining of two methods, two particular approaches to usually mentalism, and that would include a force and the concept of having multiple outs, so having various outs, various conclusions to an effect. And I found that if you put these two things together, a force and multiple outs, you can have a really, really powerful effect, something that is hard to trace back, that really raises the level of impossibility in the experience of the spectator. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to look at a number of different performances and a few different methods and a few different effects that fit into that idea. So we'll start with this one here, which is really a lottery effect, and I'm using a raffle ticket, and the reason why I went with a raffle ticket, really you could use anything. You could have a lottery ticket if you wanted to. This is a good point to make. It's about style and it's about personality. People that know me know that I am not a fan of the lottery, right? I just don't. I have ethical concerns about the lottery as an institution, and there's no way that I would carry around a lottery ticket and present that. There's no reason why I would have it. People that know me would know that about me. So I had to find some other way to do this. So I kind of settled on a raffle ticket. It's a much more benign kind of form of a lottery. And these are used usually for, special events or benefit events, those kinds of things where you put a couple bucks in, you get a raffle ticket, and then there's a drawing, and you either win something or you get recognized in some way. So I just went with this because it has numbers on it a lot like a lottery ticket, and I'd be more likely to have something like that and carry it. So the first thing is to make sure that, whatever you're doing, make sure that it matches who you are, matches your personality. If you're 16 years old, don't carry around a lottery ticket. There's no reason why you would. You wouldn't have one. But you could have something like this. You could have a piece of paper that just has some random digits on it. You could say, I was going through some of my schoolwork and I found this paper. It's mysterious. I don't even know where it came from. It just has some written digits on it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can sort of do the lottery prediction effect without a lottery ticket. This is mine. Okay? This is a prop, but we're going to talk about the method here in a moment. First, before we get to that, I want to address some things related to source material when talking about forces and multiple outs. So let's have a short conversation on that first. So before we get into this, we need to talk a little bit about forces. There are a handful of forces that people do with cards that everybody knows. Some very widely known and widely executed forces done with cards: a riffle force, spread call force, the Hindu shuffle force, those kinds of things. But forces really don't have to apply to cards. You can force data. You can force spectator offerings in various different ways, particularly with numbers. There's a lot of ways to do that. And I want to recommend a book to you that I've actually talked about before. It's Anneman's 202 Methods of Forcing. Anneman's 202 Methods of Forcing. Now, you don't have to go buy this book. It is a public domain material. It is a book that is out of print, at least the original. It actually is in reprint by a couple of different publishers, but you don't have to purchase that book. You can actually find PDF scans or ebooks of that book that are, of course, legal because it is an out of print and public domain source. The time period has run up on its copyright and is now in the public domain. You can find it, I believe, at archive.org. You can download it. And I would invite you to do that and read through it. There's 202 forces in there, and the forces, I would say about half of them deal with cards, and then the rest of them, maybe about 3/4 of them, deal with cards in some way. And the rest of them deal with just a miscellaneous sorts of other kinds of forces, mostly dealing with numbers or words. Check that out. Read through it. You're going to find some very interesting material in there. Now, one big criticism that Anneman's 202 Methods of Forcing gets is that it's outdated or it's archaic. And I have a response to that. I believe it is outdated, but only in one sense, and it's archaic only in one sense. And that is that the forces have a specific presentation that are written up with them. And I want to just posit this to you, and you can consider it. Methods are never really outdated. Methods are never really archaic. Methods are timeless. What is outdated and what can become kind of, archaic would be the presentation of the method. How is the method dressed up? So when you're looking at a force that involves using, a quote-unquote a drugstore envelope and a handkerchief, and things like that, or a candle, or, these things that we just don't really carry around and have around anymore that are a little bit, unusual for the time. You don't necessarily have to use those particular items in that particular presentation. You can update the method with a more appropriate presentation to match the times. So therein, this book is not outdated at all, and I invite you to go ahead and read through it, find some ideas in there that you can apply in updated ways. We're going to use one of those right now. We're actually going to apply a force from that book, but we're going to apply it in a way that there's actually multiple endings. There's multiple ways that it can come out. And we will have a multiple out variation for each way that it can result. And by doing that, we will present in the spectator's mind the assertion, the concept, the feeling, the sensation that they had complete free choice over the outcome, and that the outcome really was up to them to determine. We're going to be working with a force that many of you know, and if you knew about this, you probably caught it in the presentation. It is the 1089 force, the 1089 force. And it is a method by which you can force the number 1089. There's a mathematical sort of trick at play there that will almost always come to that number. There's a small % chance that the book that 202 Methods of Forcing doesn't address, but there is a small percentage in which it will not come out to that, but will come out to a different number. We have a multiple out variation for that number and the few chances that might happen. And then also we have a way to expand the number, add some additional digits that gives the spectator some choices, and we have a couple of multiple outs for those choices as well. So let's get into it here, the 1089 force and how it is applied to this. So first of all, presentation. I have a ticket that has those numbers on it, and I actually have them in sequential number. There's a couple of different ways that you can present this. You could present the effect similar to what I did, but you could reorder the numbers from lowest to highest. Right, you might, and that you'd have motivation to do that, maybe to number them from lowest to highest, and then it would line up with the ticket or with your with whatever reveal you're using, and then you can have an exact match. So I didn't do that. I chose not to. I felt that maybe by not doing that, it adds a little bit to the realism of this, that things are kind of jumbled up and not in the right order, but that the numbers are the same numbers. So it's just a choice there, an aesthetic sort of an experiential choice that you can make. But you can order it any way that you want. Now, it might be logical to do that, to say, let's put these just in order from smallest to biggest or biggest to smallest, because what that will do for you is it has motivation to change the order, because you're putting them in order from in some sort of methodology, smallest to biggest. There's a reason behind it. It's very important, I think, to talk about motivation. A lot of mathematical forces and mathematical tricks suffer a lack of motivation. And what I mean by that is if you do a math trick, that is to say, I can take a number that the spectator gives me and I'm going to do a bunch of things to it, and then it's going to come out in this way that I expected. That's not really, there's no motivation there. That's just a math trick. And math tricks are not impressive. They're just not amazing to people, because you assume that, well, this just mathematically comes out this way. Isn't that kind of neat? That's really all you get out of a math trick. If you dress up a math trick, however, with motivations for doing those things, then it becomes an impossible feat. It doesn't become a math trick anymore. It becomes spontaneous choices, right? It becomes free, spontaneous selection, and you just can't beat that in a prediction. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to dress up this force and make it look better than it is. So I have a ticket, but I actually have two tickets. I've got that ticket, and then in another fold in my wallet, I have another ticket that is identical except for the number. And there's actually a couple of other things on here that we need to talk about too. But if you compare these numbers, what I have here is on the right side, I have the one in which if we added 10 to 8 and 9 from the 1089 number that we come up with, if we add it as 10 plus 8 plus 9, we get 27. And those are the two extra digits that we get. And then this version over here is the one where you just add 1 to 8 to 9, and you get 18. So this is my multiple out. Now, in addition to this, there's another multiple out on back of both. You probably don't need to do it on both, but I did do it on both. I wrote the number 99 just in pen on the back, and it's just a random marking, just kind of an errant marking that's sitting there for no good reason on the back of the ticket. That is my out if the force does not work out the right way and I get that small percentage occurrence where I don't get 1089, but I get the number 99. So let's very quickly work through this, just the math side of it. And as we do that, I'll discuss some of the patter that's going along with this to help lead the spectators astray. here's how this works. I keep my ticket hidden away in my wallet. I don't even make mention of it. I just do a pocket dump and I set my wallet out there. Now, I think it is very important that your wallet or whatever you're carrying the ticket in, and you probably should carry it in something, don't just have the ticket in your pocket. I think it's important that it's sitting out in the open for the duration of the trick and that you don't touch it so that you can draw attention to that when the time comes, okay? So I have it sitting out there. I've got my tickets in there ready to be revealed. I ask audience members or spectators for a few different digits, and I make it seem like I could take any number, but I'm just going to stop at 3. Randomly, spontaneously. So I ask for a number, and maybe someone says 6, and then 6, and then I ask for another one. Maybe somebody says 4, and then I ask for another one. Maybe someone says something like 2. Now, there are some variations of the 1080 force where they say, make sure that you have a number in descending that has descending digits, right? And that the last digit is 2 different from the first digit. We are not doing the math trick variation of this. We are doing the straight up, street force here. So we don't have any stipulations on this. I just want random numbers. The reason why those stipulations are on there are to avoid ending up at 99, okay? But we're going to account for that possibility. We're not worried about if that happens. We have an out for that, okay? And that may seem weak, this idea, but I'll show you in a moment it's not weak at all. It actually plays pretty big because it doesn't happen in comparison to anything else. It just occurs. So I've got my digits, and then I tell my spectators they can change the order if they want to. So if they do, they do. If they don't, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Now, once I've got that, I'm going to subtract the reverse of the number. Now, you might find that the number reversed is a higher number than what they gave you, and that's okay. You're just going to subtract the number they gave you from the one that's reversed. Either way, you need to do an authentic subtraction where you have a positive number at the end. Okay, so you want to subtract the smaller number from the bigger. So you just want to give an excuse for that. Now, the motivation I gave was the fact that I'm a music person, right? And in music, electronic music composition, we deal with this thing called granular synthesis. I don't know, it just seems like a good correlation, like an analogy. And I can say, look, the idea is that you start with something that you know and you end up with something you didn't expect. And that's what we're trying to do here. Motivation is key. Motivation turns this from a math trick into a spontaneous random selection. Okay? And that is a part of the goal of this tutorial, is to make that point. So I'm going to subtract from this 246, and that comes out to 396, okay? And I say, well, that's a good number. Now, at this point, I know that I'm not going to arrive at 99, because I know what the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 693 to that, and I know I'll come out to 1089. So I don't have to worry about my first out. If this was going to come out to 99, if I add the inverse of this, I would say, let's just do one more thing and see what random number we come up with. And I would cut all of that very short and end right there. And then I would do my recap on free selection and all that jazz. And then I would say, I've got my ticket here. I found this in my files. I don't know what it came from. It doesn't have any information on it. And I've got the whole ticket. I've got the ticket and I've got the stub with it. And don't worry about the number that's on here. What really was fascinating to me was a marking that was on it with no explanation. And I don't know what it would be for. But on the back, it had this number written on it, 99. Does that mean anything to you? Now, I don't know what this was for, but I knew it must be important, and now I know why. It was important for this very moment. That's the reveal, okay? So that's the multiple out if you end up at 99. This is a red herring to get to that, which is inexplicable. How did they end up at that? Now, the fun thing about this is that if they go through the exercise of taking a 3-digit number, any random one, and going through the motions, they'll probably end up at 1089, and that is very different from that. So in investigation, they should find that this seems awful random. Now, most people won't even bother doing that, but they could do that, okay? So that's the first multiple out, is the 99 multiple out. Just write it on the back and go that route, okay? We left off here with our subtracted outcome here. I'm going to add now to this. I say, look, I need more digits to work with for this to work. I need more numbers. So I'm just going to add to this. I'm going to add the inverse. Again, this all comes from what you gave me. If you had given me different numbers, I would be looking at different numbers right now. So you had total control over this, free choice. So I'm going to add to this a 6, 93, and look what we have. Okay, so it's just a mathematical principle that this always comes out this way, except for that rare time when you get 99. And I've got a 1089. Now, I act as if this is a surprise to me, like I didn't expect this. I say, and now we've got a random number here, 4 digits, 1089. I need more numbers. I need more numbers for this to work out. So that's all you say. Now, I have built in here 2 outs. One is if I add the single digits together, 1089 gets me to 18, in which case I would pull this stub in the end, okay? And I can put them in order to match that or not. The other out is if I add 10 plus 8 plus 9. You might even make a third ticket and you could add 10 plus 89. And you could do a fourth ticket if you change it some other way. So however many outs you want to have, the better off. Because if there's a wide variety of options, then this seems even more impossible. So let's go the route we took in the presentation. I add 10 plus 8 plus 9. I could even do this. 10 plus 8 plus 9 gives me 27. And now I've got the digits 2, 7, 0, 1, 8, and 9. So 1, 0, 8, 9, and 2 and 7. Those are my numbers. Now, the extra step here, if you wanted to, is you could say, now, let's make some sense of this. We'll put this in kind of number order here, just from lowest to highest. So that would actually give me 0, 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, if you want an exact match. So 0, 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. And then that would line up perfectly with this. Again, I just skipped that. I thought it might be better if I left them mixed up. It would seem a little bit more realistic. But that's how you get there. And you say, I think that's enough to work with, and I think we're going to be surprised at what we find here. And I just need to check. I had in my wallet this thing that I found in my my paperwork. It's this ticket here, this little raffle ticket. I don't know what it's for. It doesn't have any information on it, but it just was so fascinating to me that I found this that I just stuck it in my wallet, and I've been carrying it around for weeks. And now I know why I have it. It's for this moment right now, because if we compare our numbers, we'll see that we have exactly those digits. And all of this came from numbers that you gave me freely and choices that you made on your own. So that's the presentation. A couple things about this. I think it's very important to at some point recap those points, that they gave the numbers freely, they picked the order, all of the ways that you changed it were based on the numbers that they gave you. They made decisions about the addition of the digits at the end to come up with additional numbers. It was all on them, and this is what they came up with. And, given the number of possibilities at about 1 million and a 6-digit number, there's no explanation for this. How could I have this one ticket that lines up with what you gave me? Also, I want to note that I will put a PDF of this ticket with these 2 variations on my description below here. You can download a PDF which will have the front and the back. You just print off the front on some colored cardstock, flip it over, and then print the back, and it will come out lined up. If you would like to use this raffle ticket, you can. Alternatively, as I said earlier, you can use a lottery ticket if you want to kind of mock up a lottery ticket, if that's the way you go, if you're known to have those kinds of things. You could use a receipt. You could use a receipt and use the UPC number on the bottom of it, or the scan number, or some kind of I guess it wouldn't be a product number, but a binary code number, something like that. You could use a number that's printed on anything that you can get to that lines up with the 1089. You'd have to mock it up to make it work. Alternatively, you can get these raffle tickets that don't have any numbers on it, and it has a blank for you to write them in, and you can just write in the digits that you need. That's a possibility too. But if you're going to print this off, I highly recommend you do a few different things. You want to print it off, and then you want to rough it up quite a bit. So I took just some pencil and I marked it up and I rubbed it in and gave it some smudges, and then I took my fingernail and I roughed up the edges and kind of frayed them out a little bit, got the layers to separate. I took some scissors that have a sharp, rough edge to it, a jagged edge, and then I just kind of nicked up the inside to give it a bit of that perforated sort of look to it on the ends, and then also in the middle right there. You might even like take it and tear it halfway through so that it looks used and worn. The idea is that these things, as people know them, you always see them worn out. You always see them worn out, right? You run into these somewhere as a ticket of entry to something. You stick it in your pocket, and then it shows up as you're, getting your laundry together. So people are very familiar with this, and usually when you see them, they're beat up like this. So you should wear it down so that it looks authentic. It doesn't look like a made-up prop. So I'll provide that to you, and there's some ideas for alternatives. As I said earlier, you could just take a piece of paper and write some numbers down on it, and it doesn't have to have any backstory at all. Say, I found this, I don't even know what it's about, I don't know what it's to, I don't know who did it, I don't know why it's there, but I had it in my paperwork, and I thought it must be important, so I put it in my wallet, and now I know what it's for. It's for this moment right here, right now. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do the lottery prediction using a number of different sorts of numerical sources to compare to the numbers that you come up with. So there you have it. So there you have it. That is the lottery type prediction using a force and multiple ounce. In the future, we're going to look at more variations on this and investigate other ways that we can dress up maybe some fairly old forces and make them look better, and apply multiple out sorts of scenarios to that to really muddle up the methodology at work here for the spectator. So good luck with that, and I wish you all happy magicking.